It's time for another episode of Pottawattamie County Roots. Hi, I am Todd Studer. I'm going to try something a little bit different today. This is going to have a different feel than usual. Typically, I have someone sitting at the table behind me or in another studio here, and we just have a conversation. This time, I decided to see if I couldn't make it look a little more like a news story or documentary as opposed to that. So it's just an experiment. We're going to see how this goes. And today, our guest is an old friend, Cindy Schmader, with ServiceMaster Restore by Schmader. And she came into the studio to talk about what has happened after the recent storms and how busy she has been with water damage and calls across Council Bluffs, Pottawattamie County, in the Omaha area have been happening. Cindy Schmader says crews have been handling storm cleanup, sewer backups, drain problems, and sump pump failures.
Yeah. The guys have been out doing some storm cleanup. We've had several backup sewers and drain, which just rain running really fast, or the sump pumps. We've had several sump pumps not or fail. Um, so it's been busy.
One thing Cindy pointed out is that even when the rain itself does not seem extreme everywhere, it can hit certain parts of town harder. And when that happens, sump pumps can fail, drains can back up, and homeowners can find water in places they didn't expect.
They are, yes, or they're plugged in. That helps too. We had yeah. No, we had one that the new house they just built and moved in, and it happens.
A lot of people think of flooding as water coming through a wall, a window, a well, or a sump pump, but Cindy says heavy rain can also overwhelm sewer systems, and in some Council Bluffs neighborhoods, that can send water back into homes.
Yeah, it sure does. And the sewer system gets flooded. Like the streets get flooded. Like down in West End is a perfect example. Some of those streets get flooded, and then it just backs up into these people's homes. And it is there's been a few houses down there we've been to multiple times, which is unfortunate. But I think the homeowners, there's a couple of them that they just everything's out of their basement now. They're just it is what it is, and you want to live down there. That you just unfortunately that's what you have to put up with.
And that creates another concern. When sewer water backs up inside a home, it may not just be water from that house. In town, Cindy says it can include what is coming from other homes further up the line, which is why cleanup has to be treated as a contamination issue.
Well, and that's I think that's a great point that you make too. We've had several people say it's no big deal. It's just our stuff. No, well, depends. Like if you're live on a farm like I do, it is just my stuff, but I'm still not touching it. But if you live in the city, it could be the people that are up the block from you. It could be people, however the sewers run, and I'm not an expert at that, but it could be 5 or 6 houses of everybody's stuff, so you don't know what's in it. So that's why it's, you know, y and I watch these, videos of these areas that got flooded, and there are people walking through with barefoot, and there was one that had a pregnant lady walking through, and I'm like, "If they only knew what could be in that water." It is, it can be very dangerous. So you have to we wear gloves, boots, Tyveks. I mean, we prepare very well for it.
Cindy says another reason to leave things alone at first is insurance documentation. Before items are moved, cleaned, or thrown away, photos may be needed.
Honestly, if it's a sewage backup, and what a lot of people like try to do is like pick their furniture up, get it up on blocks and stuff. And I get all that. I would probably do the same thing in my house, but sewage is contaminates. So anything that's porous, it gets into, and so it's not going to. It most generally that stuff needs to be thrown away. Every once in a while, you'll get a piece of furniture from like the 50s and the 60s, that hard wood, built really well. That stuff we can clean. A lot of times it comes out of it. Sometimes it doesn't. But the newer stuff, like the pressed particle board and that kind of stuff, it just swells up and it's toast. You can't do anything with it.
She also warns that homeowners can accidentally spread contamination through the rest of the house just by walking through the affected area and then going upstairs.
So a lot of times what we just tell people is just leave it. And the other thing too is we need pictures for the insurance company, right? So just leave it, call us, we can come out. And usually in those cases, we're out there pretty fast. We can get out there, but when our guys go in, they have oops, sorry about that. When our guys, come in, they have Tyvek's on boots, and I think that the second biggest thing is people don't realize you've got that stuff on your feet. So you're going up and down the stairs and maybe walking through other portions of your house, you're actually contaminating the rest of your house or where you've walked. So, that's the other thing too. I mean, that's usually one of the first things I tell people when they call. When you go into your upstairs, leave your shoes on the stairs. People don't think about it. I mean, you have stuff on the bottom of your feet. You could go all the way up and still have stuff. So, that's a good thing is even like I'd step on the first or second stair, take my shoes off, leave them there, go upstairs.
Another mistake Cindy sees is people trying to treat the smell with household chemicals before professionals arrive. That can create a dangerous reaction when those products mix with restoration chemicals.
Don't start spraying any chemicals. Don't start it smells sometimes is super bad, but don't start spraying chemicals because sometimes what you've sprayed interacts with what we spray. And when what we're spraying, we're trying to disinfect and we use an antimicrobial, but we try to disinfect. And sometimes the sprays or the chemicals will intermix, which is always a bad deal. And I've actually had a guy that I've had to take to the ER because of it before. We had a and I mean, he was fine, but still he just had some breathing issues and ended up with a sinus infection over it. But somebody sprayed bleach and then we sprayed our chemical that's a ServiceMaster proprietary product. And the two interacted and there was like this. And he's like, why is it looks like gas coming off? Well, it was because the two and then he started having shortness of breath. So I'm like, took him to the ER. I'm like, we are not messing around with
Primrose Retirement Community in Council Bluffs believes home should be a place of comfort, connection, and care. From personalized support to engaging daily activities, everything they do is designed to help residents live fully and confidently. At Primrose, that's their priority to put the quality of their residents' care and daily needs at the top of their list each day and every day. It's not just about where you live, it's about how you live. Learn more about life at Primrose by going to primroseretirement.com and then contact Jamie Bush at Primrose and discover a place that truly puts people first. If you have a leak, a clogged drain, or even if you're planning a big remodel, Waldstein Plumbing in Council Bluffs has you covered. With fast, reliable service and expert craftsmanship, handling everything from small repairs to major installations. They're locally owned and trusted and take pride in doing the job right the first time. Residential or commercial, big or small, when plumbing problems strike, they're the ones to call. Visit waldsteinplumbing.com. Fans can also cause a problem. If the water is contaminated, blowing air across it may spread spores or contamination farther through the house.
We've had people like start putting fans in, like the box fans, and then we're just blowing those spores of whatever is down there everywhere throughout the house. So that's kind of a big no-no too. I always tell people just leave it and call us. Let the professionals.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's okay. I mean, it depends. Just depends. But you know what? Once we get our eyes on it, then we can tell you, yeah, you can do that, or no, you can't, or whatever. So
After the recent storms, Pottawattamie County was included in a disaster declaration. And Cindy says she was already moving toward the final stages of most of its local storm related jobs while still drying out a couple of Omaha properties.
we have one, I think we have equipment on one job left here in Pottawattamie County. Otherwise, we're kind of on the downhill swing. So we're doing the billing now and the pictures and uploading all that stuff to insurance companies and making sure that the customers have copies of everything. So I think we have one over here. We do still have two over in Omaha that we have equipment in. Those are taking a little bit longer. I'm gonna go check those today. I'm not sure why, but sometimes when you have we one of them, well, the one, it's an elderly lady who never goes in their basement. You know how many times I've said, "Walk your basement." That's my favorite saying. But she's an elderly lady and just started smelling something, and it just happened to be after the storm. There's evidence that it was there prior, but, had the storm, water came in through a sump pump, and so we've been over there and we cleaned it up and taken care of it for her, but it is staying wet longer, it's taking longer to dry, which means tells me it's been there longer, so it's been wet longer than just a few days, so
Cindy says that storm response starts before the first call comes in. Even when the forecast changes by a day or two, her crews still have to be ready because no one knows exactly where the damage will hit.
yeah, I always tell my guys, well, and actually last week, we were called by, corporate on Tuesday. said, "Hey, get ready, get your guys ready, get your trucks ready, get your equipment ready. It's gonna, all you know what's gonna break loose." And I actually called on Wednesday and said, "We're still waiting." And then I called her Friday and I said, "We're still waiting." She goes, "You're gonna get it this weekend." Okay, that's fine. Saturday, boom. We got the storms that, well, and I think we got some Friday night too. We had some Friday night, so we got some of the storms that they really were predicting to come in on Tuesday. So, we just go with the flow. I watch my weather app every day. I get up every morning and I look at it and see what it's going to be like today or tonight, or that's just part of the job.
After decades in restoration work, Cindy says those habits may be hard to turn off even when retirement eventually comes.
I know my husband is retired, and he actually the other day he said, at some point you're going to retire, and you're not going to have to do all these things. And in my head, I thought, at some point I'm going to retire. Kind of curious how long it's going to take me not to check the weather app first thing in the morning, not to go check my emails first thing in the morning, or check my voicemails to see what who's sent what overnight. It'll be interesting, but it'll be fun.
When the storm actually arrives and the calls start coming in, Cindy notes the focus changes. The crews may already be prepared, but the challenge becomes equipment, scheduling, and whether they need to start a wait list.
Once it gets here, I don't really get too worked up before, like corporate will call and say, "Get your trucks ready, get your guys ready." We're ready. I mean, we're ready most of the time anyway. Yeah, I don't need that. So it's once the calls start flowing, good, can't talk, flowing in. And the one thing that a lot of times too, what we'll do, which we did not have to do this time, but a lot of times what we'll do is there's so many people calling in, we'll start a wait list because we just either we ran out of equipment, or the guys are already 2 days out being booked. So we'll start a wait list. But that's to bring up another good point. I always tell people, if you call us or another restoration company and they put you on a wait list, you better call everybody in town, because if they're on a wait list, or they're putting you on a wait list, everybody else is putting you on a wait list. And if you call one that they don't have a wait list yet, I'd ask them how close they are to a wait list, because if they're not busy, probably don't want them.
Storm response is something Cindy understands from the restoration side. I understood it for years from the radio side when severe weather meant dropping everything and going into storm coverage. Cindy says that same kind of focus shows up for her when she is in her own environment, explaining the work.
But if you come to my shop, that's my domain. That's where I'm at. You come to my shop and I walk through and explain things to you. In fact, it's funny. Keith Jones came over one time and he walked through and he's like, "You do such a better job explaining things over here." I said, "Really?" Like it didn't even click with me that, I'm at the chamber and I'm explaining. I think I'm doing a good job over there. But Keith's like, "We're in your house." I said, "You are in my house." And this is, we have the ozone room, we have the cleaning room, we have the warehouse, you're in my house, and I can get pretty like focused and dialed in there.
That may be worth a future episode on its own. Cindy's shop includes the cleaning areas, ozone room, warehouse, and equipment that most homeowners never see unless something has gone wrong.
So I thought that was kind of interesting. So now I try to be a little bit more focused and dialed in when I go to places and talk or give presentations, or like we're doing a lot of lunch and learns at different agents' offices, just to teach them what we can do, what we can't do, kind of a pros and cons type of thing. So I get pretty dialed in when I do that, 'cause I've got my agenda and kind of stick with it. So
Cindy also talked about how people are trained in restoration work. And when she first bought the company, she was sent to a water damage class after only a few weeks. And she remembers being overwhelmed by how much there was to learn.
But I tell you what, I remember back 23 years ago when we first bought. So you go to corporate, and they for 2 weeks and they teach you, the basics basically. And you come home and then you're kind of just on your own. Well, I'm pretty motivated, so it didn't really bother me. But you go out there and you're like, "Oh, well, what do we do about this? What do we do about that?" And I was probably literally maybe 3 weeks into owning this company, and they're like, "Go to this water class down in Kansas City." So I went, and it was a 3-day class. And I'll never forget. I had Fisher was his last name. He was an amazing teacher, and I'm sitting in the back of the room for a reason, because I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm brand new. I'm 3 weeks in. All these other people, typically I'm a front of the room gal because I want to be able to hear you, but I'm kind of hiding in the back. And he caught on that I was hiding in the back, which was so, um yeah. So, I after about 2 hours in, I was, like, glazed over. I'm looking at this book, I'm starting to panic, I have no idea what they're talking about. I don't know what a class 1 water loss is. I mean, it tells me, but I have no idea. And so, went through that whole 8-hour day, and at the end of the end of the day, he came up to me and he said, "I know you're overwhelmed. I can tell." He's like, "Just do me a favor, go back to your room tonight, go get dinner, go back to your room and just read back through all the pages." And he goes, "And tell yourself, I've got this." I said, "Well, I got this. I do got this." And he said, "You don't look like you got this." And I started laughing because I was like, "I don't got this." As I'm walking away from him, I'm like, "I don't got this."
That experience changed how she trains her own people. Instead of sending someone into class with no real world context, ServiceMaster uses on the job training first, then sends employees to class once the information will make more sense.
Halfway through that day, I was like, "What have I gotten myself into? What am I doing? Like I can't learn all this stuff." It's not hard. It's just at certain points it's overwhelming. And if you're new to the business, they can't just throw you in a class and then bring you in. So we do the on the job training. We wait about 3 to 6 months and then we send you to class. You know more. We teach you 90% of what you're going to learn in class, but that class gives you the certificate. So you sit through it, you get the certificate, and then you're good to go.
Finding the right care for a loved one can feel overwhelming. Assisted Living Locators is here to help. Jean Bonker brings more than 30 years of experience serving families and has personally navigated the challenges of elder care. She understands the questions, the emotions, and the weight of these decisions. Jean becomes your advocate, guiding you through options with clarity, compassion, and personal support every step of the way. Call Assisted Living Locators at 402 690 5467 and move forward with confidence. Are you in the market for stylish, locally curated fashion that's close to home? Visit Unique Boutique Iowa in Neola at 101 4th Street, your destination for trendy clothing, accessories, and distinctive gifts. Open on the weekends, Saturdays 10 to 2, Sundays 11 to 3. You can always shop online at shopubiowa.com.
And I was so overwhelmed. That's why I was like, we're not doing this in our business.
Over the years, Cindy has learned the smaller clues that tell her what may be happening in a basement. One example is how to tell whether the problem may be the sump pump.
Sump pump is one of them. I will ask about the sump pump and how do you know it's the sump pump? And there's not very many people that, if you've been in the business for a while, you know. But if you haven't and you're not paying attention and you're maybe just kind of BS your way through, you don't know. Sump pump goes around the walls, basically. It's out about 6, 8 inches, right? Or 4, whatever it is. That's where the sump pump is. And all of that drainage flows into your sump pump and then it's kicked out. So if you go around the middle of your room is dry and the outside of your room is wet, typically it's your sump pump. And not all those walls can be wet at the same time. Like that doesn't happen. That is kind of your kicker that it's the sump pump.
She can even walk a homeowner through a simple check over the phone.
And a lot of times the homeowners will call. So I had a homeowner in Omaha that called and said, well, we have a sump pump because that's the first thing I ask him. I'll ask him about a sump pump. We have one, but I don't know if it's the sump pump. So then I ask them, walk with your feet and socks, walk around the middle of your room. Are you getting your socks getting wet? Nope. Walk around the outside of your rooms. Yep, my socks are getting wet. It's probably your sump pump.
I also want to take an opportunity to thank Cindy personally because after everything that happened here at my studios with the stolen equipment and having to rebuild quickly, she was one of the people who reached out and helped keep me from making big decisions in the middle of a crisis.
Well, I've been there, done that a couple of times now. So my first experience with not your same situation, but something big life altering change, and I just went home and I said, I'm just going to give up. My husband's like, you can't give up. You can't give up. We have too much in this. And I'm like, I can't do it anymore. And so I think, and along the way over the years, I've had several people and quite a few friends that are just always encouraging and very, I mean, you lost it all, but look what happened. You found it. And
I get to tell a story now.
I was going to say that story that and I should say that story, the story that you tell is amazing. And now you're helping somebody else's business. I mean, I love it. I just think it's amazing.
And that conversation connected back to the cleanup advice Cindy gives homeowners. Whether it is water in a basement or a crisis in life, the first instinct is often to panic and start doing something immediately. Cindy says that can make things worse. And in a home emergency, documentation matters.
I've had it in my house. Like our septic backed up, and for my first, I wanted to clean it all up. You can't do that. Well, you need pictures, everybody, and I think that's probably one of the things that I tell people a lot. If you have something going on, start snapping pictures. And actually I have a couple of adjusters that had told that actually this is about 6 months ago. I met with an adjuster on a fire loss, and he goes, "This lady has pictures of every room, 45-degree." I'm like, "She has to be a restoration specialist." Well, she's not, but she was in one of my classes that I taught about 4 years ago, that detailing out how we document things for the insurance company. So, you know what? It stays with you. You just have to, if you don't, but you don't know what you don't know.
The practical takeaway from Cindy is direct. If stormwater gets into your home, especially if sewage may be involved, do not rush into the basement and start moving things around, spraying chemicals, or setting up fans. What you do want to do is take pictures, limit where you walk, avoid tracking contamination upstairs, and call someone who knows what they're looking at. Cindy Schmader with ServiceMaster Restore by Schmader says homeowners do not know what they don't know. And in a cleanup situation, that can matter quickly. Big thank you, Cindy, for joining us. And also, we want to thank you very much for being a part of Pottawattamie County Roots today. My name is Todd Studer, and we'll see you next time.